A huge thank you to Sthembiso Phakathi, the Human Capital Director at Deloitte, for that thought-provoking address. And I sincerely hope that many questions were answered about the value of employee mobility and incentives amidst the great resignation. Can you believe it? We're at our final item on our agenda for the Future of HR Virtual Summit for 2021. And it's a fireside chat with Arnie Malham, the founder and president of betterbookclub.com, as he engages on how to create a sustainable growth culture in the workplace through learning. Now, in business, much like in life, it often takes years to do things wrong enough to finally get them right. And building a sustainable business will largely depend on your ability to learn, to innovate, and create a sustainable culture where all parties involved experience personal growth. Author of Worth Doing Wrong, the book on building a culture that rocks, Arnie Malham joins us for a fireside chat to provide tips for fostering a healthy business and workplace culture that'll grow ever stronger and ready to take on any challenge along the way through committing to continuous learning. Arnie, welcome to the conversation. I'm excited to kickstart this fireside chat with you. And I see we're both rubbing our hands ready to get this fire burning. So very warm welcome to the discussion. Can you elaborate on the premise behind your cloud computing based platform, Better Book Club, which I think will give us a greater context into this conversation. And I think the journey also through this in terms of where this idea for this business rather comes from.
Well, the concept is that to keep great people working for our great company, they have to grow as aggressively as we grow, our company grows, and our clients grow. And I found that the absolute number one way to get your team growing is to read. Of course, like so many other entrepreneurs out there, I used to think that my last book was my team's first book. I used to think, oh, I read this, I liked it, so therefore I'm going to buy 20 copies and pass them out and get my team to read those books. And what I learned over many years of doing that wrong is that just doesn't work. We like to believe it works, but in truth, only a few people actually do read the book if you give it to them. Most don't. A few skim it. Everyone gets mad at everybody because not everyone's doing the same thing. And that's not a sustainable model. And so what we had to figure out, amongst many other things, is how do we grow our people? How do we help them go forward and learn and learn and learn? And it wasn't by reading the books that I read. It was by reading the books they wanted to read. And so we developed a system called Better Book Club, which isn't a book club at all. It's a system for rewarding our team members for reading, recognizing and rewarding our team members for reading, not what I want them to read, but what they want to read. Books that make them, first, better parents, better spouses, better, have less anxiety, be healthier, be better humans. And with the habit of reading, you'll finally get into the books about strategy and hiring and marketing and all the things that you need them to do. But instead of telling people what to read, we're simply recognizing and rewarding them for what they do read. We don't care as much about the book, we care a lot about the habit. And the habit is why we created Better Book Club and why so many companies are using it as a better way to get books in brains of their team so that their team can grow at the pace that their company needs, quite frankly.
I think of all the strategies that I've heard over the past few days, reading is definitely one that hasn't come up. So quite excited to delve deep into this. But I suppose communication really plays a great role, and also the type of leader if you are going to be introducing such a system.
Well, I think that, again, we as leaders, we have to go, I had to go through a stage of whether I was being the boss, telling people what to do all the time, or if I was being the leader, if I was creating systems that recognize and reward my team members for doing the things that help them most. And so if I may have veered off your question a little bit, but this concept of instead of doing it for me or doing it for the company, the concept of growing for yourself, for the person first. So what I had to learn is if my people didn't feel like I cared about them, they didn't care about me and my goals. And so we constantly, and what I write about in the book is constantly how we created systems to help the person so that they could be their best at work, so that we could be our best as a company. So that was sort of the logic that we put together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think once you've kind of overcome that hurdle and you are able to effectively communicate and you are in this process now, or rather the early stages of learning and development, if the learning and the growing needs to be emphasized in the work environment, how does one go about encouraging or rather building in, those building blocks for one's employees to get on board and ride this train of growth in the company, but also just the learning and development elements that are required for the business?
Well, we hope that every company has taken the time to consider and to put forth their core values, the core values of the company that they want their team members to use to make decisions while at work. Not necessarily at home, not necessarily with their family, not necessarily when they're somewhere else, but when they're in our company, these are the values that help us move forward. And with luck, those values are emphasized, are supported by the programs in the company culture that push those values forward. And again, with great planning, those values typically will attract people who enjoy practicing those values. Ours were growth, confidence, optimism, and respect. We built programs around those things, and those programs and those values attracted people to our culture or repelled people from our culture. It didn't make sense to them. The programs we used didn't appeal to those people. And what I want to put out there is that whether it attracts or repels, it doesn't matter. We just have to get the right people, meaning people who embrace those values, who enjoy the programs, who grow, who excel in an environment with your values. Then we can move forward. If we get the right people, it's a lot easier to do the right things. If everyone is using their own values and running on different pages, it's much harder to get aligned. And so the Better Book Club and so many of the programs that we use that I've outlined in my book, which I'm happy to talk about, are things that align with our values so that we're all going in the same direction.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps this is the opportune time to bring in the content and the context of your book, because to your point, sometimes the values are aligned, but at times it's the way of doing things. It's the way of work, which is over the past 2 years or the last 18 months, which is what we've seen manifest, right? Whether it's working from home remotely or actually traveling or not traveling, but the way in which we do things is sometimes where that resistance of change really comes about. And also for leaders, this is where some of the challenges that business leaders face in terms of employees really resisting this kind of changes. What are some of the considerations that perhaps leaders can take into place when they are seeing that there is this repellence that's taking place?
Yeah, well, so my team, I don't want to, here's what happened with me is my team I would read a book or go to a conference like this or meet with someone who I'm learning from, and I'd come back with an idea and a program, and my team would just wait for the shine to rub off, for time to go by. The thing of the month just took time, and it would go away, and it would go away because I didn't follow some really easy steps towards getting that program to stick. And I want to talk about those steps. But what we had to learn to do is give programs first time to take root in our companies, right? We tend to come back and we hear a new idea and we want to implement it in 9 days or maybe 9 weeks. But what programs really need or 9 months to really take root in our companies. The other mistake we make a lot as leaders is that we come back and we try to implement the program. And I would submit to everyone listening is that leaders, people at the top of the org chart, are usually the worst at leading culture-based value programs. What we found is that when we had a program, we assigned a champion, someone from the bottom half of the org chart, someone who wanted a chance to show the entire company what they were capable of. And every program we put in place, whether it was Better Book Club or birthday cards or appreciation sins or our policies or guidelines within the company, every program had a champion. And that champion, not one champion for all the programs, but every program had a champion. That champion had a checklist, something they could use to run the program, to see what went right, what went wrong. And that what went wrong is the most important part, because as the number one thing that champion needs is permission to get the program wrong on their way to getting it right. You know, we say we either succeed or we learn. We succeed or we learn, meaning we can never really fail because we're always learning. But that's a gift we must give our team members who are running the programs and dealing with stuff in our companies, is the permission to fail so they can learn as well. And so permission to get it wrong, a checklist to get it right, and the opportunity to show the entire company what they can do when leading a program. And what we found is when we spread those programs out among 8, 10, 12 people, each one of them responsible for one of the programs, not only did it help them become better, not only did the programs run better, but they actually helped each other run better programs. And so they're learning from each other, and it takes the burden off the leadership or the upper end of the org chart, and it means programs actually stick instead of becoming the program of the month.
Now, as you know, the companies and the leaders who are tuning in are on their way to do it right, and for some perhaps who've never heard of this continuous learning approach, I wonder if you could perhaps maybe share one or two case studies where we've seen, or you've seen rather, perhaps you and your team, this real life benefit, right, for employees, for leaders of adopting this innovative continuous learning approach.
Well, if we think about each of our paths, each path that we've taken to get wherever we are, it always starts with someone first believing in us, someone who says, I believe that you can get this done. And so that's a gift we have to learn to give to others. It always starts with us learning something new, something we don't automatically know how to do everything. So we have to figure things out. That's the gift we give to others, is the time and the resources to become better at what they do, to learn what they're doing. And then we have to be compensated so that we want to do it. There has to be a reason. Compensation is, I heard some of the earlier speakers today, it's not always just money, but the compensation comes in many forms. For us, it came so much in recognition and making sure that we always are recognizing people that are doing the things we want them to do. So we want to pay our people well, whatever form that takes. We want to grow our people well. We want to give them the opportunities to become better human beings in every way, so that they become better team members. And we want to treat our people well, right? We pay them well, we grow them well, and we treat them well. And this concept of people leaving jobs starts to really go down when they get those three things. If people are compensated, if they're treated well, if we grow them well, if we give them opportunities to become better humans, it's a lot better chance. It's not foolproof, but there's a lot better chance that they stick around. We did this through recognizing and rewarding reading. We did this, which was our Better Book Club program, which helped people become better humans. We did this through our simple things, like we had an appreciation card program. And it's not a fancy name, but it was as simple as when we had a new team member come in to our organization, we'd hand them a stack of 20 appreciation cards. And we said, your job over the next 60 days is to handwrite and hand these out to people who help you be successful in our company. Now, if you're remote and doing it a different way, we can always figure out a way to electronically replicate the physical card. But those physical cards of appreciation ended up being throughout our workplace, because no one threw away a card of appreciation, because they appreciated the energy in which it was given to them. And so it would go on the wall of their office or cubicle or desk space, because it reminded them that they got feedback when they helped others. And so we were able to foster this culture of helping others be successful. Our whole program was that I want everyone to believe every day that everyone around them is there to make them better. And that simple appreciation card gave everyone that visual reminder and that physical reminder of helping others so that we all can be successful. And so that was a program. We had this crazy thing called birthday cards, where we simply sent birthday cards with a little compensation home to our team members' children, so that there was a positive experience in the household about where mom or dad worked. And so we would send a 9-year-old a gift card worth a little bit of money, so that on the children's birthday, so that they could open it at home and have that positive experience at home. You bring that positive experience at home into the workplace, and we've got a little bit happier workplace. And so these are just examples of things, whether we were paying and recognizing people to read, whether we're asking our team to thank and appreciate each other, or if we're creating a feeling of appreciation at home. All these things help people bring their best self to work.
Absolutely. And what I appreciate about these studies, or these case studies that you've shared as well, is that it doesn't take, it's not a R1 million or 100,000 Rand initiative, right? You really have to start small. And I think also starting with the capacity and the capabilities that you have to start gamifying these gains as well, as you are paying your staff well, as you're growing them well, and as you're treating them well. And to your point, what this leads to is not only employee happiness, employee development, but it's this employee growth that can be achieved through this kind of approach. And of course, also make this positive impact on the workplace culture as a whole. How does such positive impact, and I think particularly through this approach, make this a really happier place to work, the profitable gains, as we were talking about, but I think also just contributing positive impact and effectiveness as well to workplace culture as a whole?
Well, we're trying to, let me tell you, it feels like I'm being such a wonderful person, but the truth is, this is a better way to run a business. This is a better way to keep our team going in the direction we want. We want to create a buzz. When their friends talk about how their work is bad, I want my people talking about why our work is great, why they feel supported by the people around them, why they feel like that they're becoming a better version of themselves, why they tell them that they have opportunities to succeed. Because not only are we trying to retain the great people that make us great, we are constantly trying to attract more people to help us grow and become even better. And so I want the buzz about a workplace that rocks, as opposed to a buzz about a workplace that people want to leave. Like it's extreme opposite, and I know it's obvious, but by creating these programs, by giving these programs a champion and a checklist and permission to get it wrong on their way to getting it right, we create an environment where everyone is helping everyone be successful. And it's not perfect, it's not utopia, but it's a path to a happier and more sustainable workplace, as opposed to a place where people dread being. And these are, again, extremes, but we want a workplace where I want people walking in, whether it's virtual or physical real, saying, I'm excited about my day, I'm trusted, I'm appreciated, and I have an opportunity to become better and make the people around me better. That's the environment that I believe we created through the programs in our company, and it's the programs that I filled this book with. This book has got a list of things we did. Some of them are going to work for you. Some of them are not going to work for you, but there's ideas and ways to implement in this very thin, easy to read book or listen to. And so I want to share. I want other people to create a workplace that's worth doing wrong.
And before I invite your closing remarks, you talk about extremes, and I think whether we're in South Africa, whether we're in the States, there are these two extremes sometimes in how organizations are run, be it a large organization or small organizations. Do you find that perhaps the size of the organization, or perhaps the fact that it's a small business as opposed to a startup, there are different ways in which the organizations are being run, and perhaps even to how this approach to learning and development can be implemented and the effect that it can have in the organization?
Absolutely. Again, my own experience as a small company, we learned that we can run a culture with our personality. We can just exude the things we want in terms of good for our people and our company, and it sort of happens. But you go from a team of 5 to a team of 10 to a team of 25, and at 25 it really starts to break down in terms of communication and what's happening. And then you get into we ended up being about 250 team members at the peak of our company, and that's a completely different system. And that's one where, again, we have to employ champions. We have to have every program needs KPIs to measure how it's doing and is it actually performing. And so we would put numbers on the wall or on the virtual wall of understanding where each program is, what effect does it have, and how impactful it is. For Better Book Club, it's how many books did we get in Brains last month? For the birthday card program, is how many letters of appreciation did we actually get back from the families? For our appreciation card program, we literally kept up with who got special recognition over and above. And so there's always a KPI, a key performance indicator, that can tell you how the program's doing. When you're really small, you as the owner may think you need to take it on. Give each program a champion, a checklist, and permission to get it wrong, and you'll continue to scale those programs. If we try to take it on ourselves or give it all to one person in HR or try to give it all to one person who's the head of innovative culture, they will break. They can't sustain this many things for this many people. And at the same time, we're robbing others in the company for the chance to be successful. And so, yes, personality creates culture early. Later, it's the programs, it's the consistent programs that help sustain a culture for companies that really go well. And if you look at the really successful, great culture-based companies, it's not one person. There are programs, there's fail-safes, there's things that they're constantly tweaking to make those programs get better and better, and one person can't do it all. Spread that opportunity out across your team.
Absolutely. You cannot do it alone. You definitely need that community and that team in order to make this team better. Now, before I wrap up our final conversation with you, Arnie, what advice would you give to businesses who are facing workplace culture issues in South Africa? And as you answer that question, I also want you to give us details on how we can get a hold of your book and where we can get a hold of your book, because I think it really contains those key insights, because I think this was just the tip of the iceberg on what really lies ahead in the strategies to be unfolded.
So my massive advice that everyone can do, everyone that is listening to this now might listen to it later, may stumble upon it. Listen. We are great at telling people what we want, the culture we want, the values we want. We're great at barking, just like I'm doing now, talking about what we want. But we began to grow as a company more effectively when I learned to listen. And there's multiple ways to do this. If it's a great big company, then we want to get surveys involved, and we want to be asking the right question at the right frequency, and we want to do something with that information. I could do 30 minutes or an hour just on the topic of how to pull information from a big company. But if you're smaller and you just want to get sort of started on this, just start talking to people and listen, right? What are we doing right as a company? What could we be doing better are the two most valuable questions in your toolkit. What are we doing right? What could we be doing better? And shut up and listen. Your team will tell you if you ask enough and listen enough and then act enough, Your team will tell you how to become a better workplace, which is your ultimate goal. Very few companies can become successful without a workplace where people want to be. And so it's your job as the leader to create that environment. Ask and listen to the answer is my number one piece of advice to every entrepreneur, no matter where you are on the growth scale.
Absolutely. Ask and listen. And I think the two things most importantly is to appoint these culture champions and to also know that building culture takes community. So you absolutely cannot do it on your own. Arnie, before I let you go, where can people get a hold of your book? You left that very important detail out.
I'm sorry. Hey, the easiest place is probably on Audible, right? It's if my voice hasn't already driven you mad, then you can listen to me more. I would say listen to me at like a speed of 1.2. I'll go through the book in about 2.5 hours, and I'll explain all the things we did in our company to make it successful, and that you can R&D, rip off and duplicate and make it successful for yourself, like turn it into your own. But I R&D ripped off and duplicated almost every idea that made us successful, and I would encourage you to do the same. Find others that have been on the path you want to go on, and let them show you the way. And I hope my book, Worth Doing Wrong, whether you get a physical copy from Amazon or you get a Audible copy from on the marketplace, let someone lead the way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you once again for joining us in our fireside chat. That was Arnie Malham, the founder and president of the betterbookclub.com, as he engages on how to create a sustainable growth culture in the workplace through learning with that incredible tool. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, it brings us to the end of the 7th annual Future of Summit, or Future of HR Virtual Summit. To our incredible sponsors, Simplify HR, Umgeni Water, Old Mutual, Remote, and Sage, as well as our strategic partners. These past 2 days would not have been possible without your commitment to join us to engage and collaborate with HR leaders and innovators to turn these myriad of insights into solutions that translates into getting well-being and healthy profit for the corporate, society, your teams, as well as the economy. To our speakers, our incredible crew, and the A-team at Topco Media, thank you for your brilliance in putting together this stellar production. Now, while this may mark the end of the Future of HR Virtual Summit for 2021, the day is not yet over. Stay tuned, because at 3:30 South African time, we cross over to the live broadcast of the 2021 Africa Tech Week Awards, the premier technology awards ceremony on the African continent.